Okay, everybody, welcome back. Soaring Eagle asks, I will be 63 when I hit the trail in 2018, and I'm in fairly good shape, but worry about my ankles and feet. Can you talk about the difference you experience going between mids to trail runners? Everyone suggests trail runners, and I'm trying some on some shakedown hikes. What are your thoughts? Okay, wow. If you want to get a discussion going, talk about footwear because you know everybody's got 2 feet, and it seems like everybody's got two opinions on this. I love my Loas. I bought my Loas. I wore my Loas probably for 50 to 100 miles around the house before I ever started hiking last year. Because I started out in the cold with the possibility of snow and ice, and I had some ice trekkers at the beginning last year. Excuse me. I was pretty happy with that. When I got into the Shenandoahs, and I really hadn't had much problem with rain filling up my boots. They were Gore-Tex. Still pretty happy with them. Still kind of clunking along with them. Then the sweat started, and I started filling up my boots with my own sweat. That started getting pretty gross. And so I was really contemplating. I wanted to get the Harper's Ferry because I could put 1,000 miles on the boots, maybe switch out to some trail runners then. Of course, that didn't happen. I got off the trail. Now I'm starting out in April. Okay, still kind of on the cold side. I love my Loas, open to trail runners, but I want to start out with boots again. So I started out with boots. They wore out really fast on the rocks in Pennsylvania, especially after my injury and my gait changed. And as you know, I jumped to trail runners. I only got 3 days with the trail runners, and that was with an injured ankle. What's interesting is I definitely liked the feeling of having lighter feet. I felt like I could walk a little bit better and negotiate a little bit more, and I wasn't so much with rolling. What was bothering me more is the 3 days that I walked, it was wet. And ordinarily, the wet that it was, the boots would have been no problem. I would have just clumped on through everything. But even stepping on some boggy wet leaves, and the water would soak right into the shoes, and it was really irritating me that my feet were getting wet. So that was frustrating me. And then it was like there were parts of the trail where it was just like, okay, it's underwater. What do I do now? And other subscribers said you just walk through it. So I was just getting to that point where it's like, okay, I'm going to adjust to this. When I go back up, I will take my trail runners this fall and hike in them. One thing that I wish I had done is no matter what you do, if you decide to do boots or trail runners, or if you know you need to trade them out, get what you think you're going to use and walk around the neighborhood, walk around the house. Not necessarily to break them in, although yeah, I mean my Loas never really had to be broken in. They were great right from the start. But the particular the Wildcat, the Boa Sportiva Wildcats that I got, they tended to be a little bit more slick on the bottom than what I was expecting. Although I loved how they kept over the toes. So, and that's one of the problems about getting something where you can't put them on. You go to one outfitter and all they've got is oboes. That's what they're selling. You go to another outfitter, well they're Solomons. Solomons are too tight for me. I can't wear Solomons. Which is in Delaware Water Gap. I was ready to jump to some Solomons, didn't have my size, and the ones that were close were way too tight. So I know I haven't been a whole lot of help with this, but it's part of hike your own hike. If you have weak ankles, then you might want to have some support. Or do some working on them, or maybe you incorporate an ankle, an elastic ankle brace as part of your foot setup, so that you can wear trail runners. So you've got that, but then you're going to have to adjust for that with blisters and things like that. So I wish I could give you more about my experience going to the switching out. Early riser, he started out in some Danner boots with all the snow, and then he switched to trail runners, and he was even using trail runners up where he was post holing up in the whites. I would definitely reach out to him and kind of get a good read on his experience going to them. Or if you go back to about the time I was at Delaware Water Gap and read the comments, he was, when I asked about switching out to trail runners, he has a pretty good editorial there on his experience from going to Danner's. Anyway, Early Riser is definitely a resource there for that, answering that question. Okay, Blessings of Adventure, and he's getting ready to go out here pretty soon. He said, hey, this is Uncle Paul. So I am considering not taking my footprint for my Big Agnes tent to save a bit of weight. How necessary for you was it having a footprint, and when you look back on it? Now this is interesting because when I got out of the hammock and went to the tent at Mountain Crossings, they didn't even try and sell me on a Big Angus footprint. They just said, hey, go over there and grab some Tyvek. Well, I have some Tyvek already, and I told them I already have some. They said, well, set the tent up over there in the cabins, put the Tyvek down, and cut it out so that it's smaller than the bathtub of your tent. And I did that, leaving a little bit of a lip in the front where about a 4-inch, I wish it had been more, maybe about a 6-inch little vestibule area there to be able to put shoes on or something like that. But so I cut that down, and I think the Tyvek. Now over time, as I learned, had I used a footprint, I could have put my poles into the footprint instead of the tent, and that would allow me during the rain in the morning to actually collapse my tent underneath the rain fly to pack it up so that it wouldn't get wet. So I was kind of lamenting not doing that, and I got to Uncle Johnny's, and he had a footprint. It was like $75, and I'm like, do I really need this? In the end, after 1,400 miles of hiking, only twice would it have been advantageous to be able to have that feature so I could collapse the tent while I was under the rain fly. Okay? So is it worth that extra weight? Probably not. But I think it was a female hiker that I was talking to at towards the end of my hike last year who had the Big Agnes footprint. And I was saying something about maybe it better for the rain and being able to take your tent down and stuff. And she said what's ironic is I have problem with water coming in through the bathtub using the footprint, the Big Agnes footprint. When she called up Big Agnes, the company, and to complain about that, they said, well, if you read your instructions, it tells you not to use the footprint if it's going to rain. Okay, now I can't verify that. I got rid of my instructions. That's what she said. I thought that was kind of interesting. One of the things that the Mountain Crossings told me is that you only need to have a footprint under where you're going to be putting weight, like where your body is going to be, because that's where all the abrasions occur. So, however, not every place you get to put your tent down, it's going to be nice and leafy and full of pine needles and such. Matter of fact, at the Gooch Gap, they have the campground they built there, and last year it was brand new, and it was all mud. I mean, it was snowed and it was melting. It was mud. If you wanted to put a tent down, and if you didn't have like a piece of Tyvek to put down, you're going to put your bathtub down in the mud, which means your tent now is going to be muddy from day 1 or day 2 of your hike. For the rest of your hike, it's going to be nasty, and just an extra weight you're going to be carrying. So I would definitely use a footprint. You don't have to use the Big Agnes because it is heavier. You can get a piece of Tyvek off of Amazon, like a 4x8 foot piece is about $15, and you cut it down to what you want it. You throw it in the washing machine on cold with no detergent, and wash it about 3 times, and that takes all the crinkliness out of it, where it makes a lot of noise, and it makes it more soft, and that way it's easy to use. So I would consider getting a piece of Tyvek. Forget the Big Agnes footprint. Apparently, especially if it's going to rain. So anyway, all right. Danny Taylor asks, I was wondering if you had discussed with your cardiologist about making adjustments to your medications that might help you during your hike. Have you seen any overall improvements or not to your health since beginning your long distance hiking? And health wise, what's been your biggest challenge? Well, the cardiologist I started out with, it's luck of the draw. You put in an ambulance, you end up at the hospital. They tell you, oh, we got to go in and see what's going on here. We're going to do catheterization. You wake up, they tell you, hey, we put a stent in. And oh, by the way, you follow up with the cardiologist. Well, he was kind of like I said, the luck of the draw. And when I asked on my first appointment with him, okay, what restrictions am I going to have now in my life? And he said none. There's no restrictions. You can be able to go do anything you want to do, and you'll probably feel better than you felt in a long time, which was true. I did feel much better than I had in a long time. Working with my care physician over time, I changed my beta blocker. I was having some side effects that I didn't like, and changed to a different beta blocker where the dosage was actually down pretty minimal, and I'm on an absolute minimum dose now. The new cardiologist I have was delighted to hear that I went out and hiked 900 miles, and he's very supportive of going out and hiking. There's a chance that I've actually increased my heart capacity and actually built more heart muscle as a result of going out hiking. And I've probably had another 10, 15 years to my life by spending last summer going out and doing that. I was also a type 2 diabetic. I was monitoring my A1C. So, last year I had a glucose monitor I carried with me. I was taking some Victoza injections, which helps bring down the A1C. That worked okay. And, keeping it in the temperature range when it was freezing. I had to make sure I slept with it along with my Sawyer so that it wouldn't freeze. But then towards the time that I was in the mid-Virginia, up to, I think, Four Pines Hostel there right prior to McAfee Knob, it was getting too hot to keep it safe. And my blood sugar in the mornings had been way down. And my doctor said, hey, just go off of it. So I went off of it, and I haven't really been back on it since. And so I can say that hiking long distance cured my type 2 diabetes. Even after I gained my weight back, my A1C stayed down. Now, it probably won't do that forever, okay? But it seemed to have made a significant difference in my type 2 diabetes. The biggest challenge was mental, in that I was hiking so slow and everybody was passing me, and was very, very discouraging. Eventually I got on and started doing some research, and I found out, well, maybe it is this beta blocker, because I do remember that first cardiologist talking about, I'm on it to help me keep from blowing my heart up. Well, after doing some research, it appeared to me that maybe it was acting like a governor on an engine. So when I came back with my other medical issues that was related to some E. coli poisoning, as I talked to my new cardiologist, he confirmed that, oh yeah, your beta blocker is like a governor on an engine. It's not going to let you go more than about 135 beats a minute. So, if you try and go faster than that, what happens is I'm depriving my muscles of oxygen, because your oxygenation is going to be only as fast as what the blood supply can take that to the muscles. And I was running out of oxygen to my legs, and I would notice I would do things like trip and stumble more. So physically, hiking slower is more comfortable on the knees and the joints and the feet and the blisters and all those kind of things. But it was the psychological effect of, you're not going to make it. You're not going to be able to make Katahdin. You're going to have to flip now. You're going to have to get the Harper's Ferry and flip up. So that dream of having Katahdin be the final event is not going to happen. And the psychology of that was pretty tough. So I would say that's one of the biggest challenges, because physically the trail is hikeable. The psychology is what makes it hard. Romy Nome, one of my subscribers, is out right now hiking. He had to take three weeks off and go home because he missed his daughter so much. It's real. It is real. My friend Brett said, you have to like who you are because you're going to spend so much time with yourself. Okay, so much time with yourself. All right, let's see here. D herself says, you mentioned that you wanted to get your weight down before resuming your hike. I was wondering what your plan is and also what you can do to get in physical shape. Hurting the ankle has messed up all those plans. I was going to make sure. Last year, my mistake was, I had the horrific hiker appetite, okay? And I could not stay away from the sugar, especially the high fructose corn syrup and the sodas and stuff and the caffeine. Just absolutely, I couldn't do it. So this year I told myself, okay, I've got to have more discipline and stay away from that. Now, since getting back, I didn't have quite the voracious hiker appetite yet, mainly because I think I was hiking so slow through all those rocks that my metabolic rate hadn't really kicked into super high gear yet. The sugary drinks, I'm kind of down to one big one in the morning, which is much better than last year. But what's really frustrating is I can't get on the ankle to get out and get some exercise. Because as you know, there's how you lose weight is you gotta take in less calories than you burn, and you gotta move, and you gotta have a metabolic rate. So you gotta breathe, you gotta move, and you gotta watch what you eat. And so far right now, I'm marginal, I would say, in meeting that goal. If I can get a little better, I would like to go out and hike some of the Florida Trail here near my house. But right now, I've got a wedding coming up that I've got to go to out west, and all that walking, I have a feeling that it's going to take everything I've got just to get my foot ready to go for heading back up to New York. So, all right, let's see. Virginia Baxter, she's been a great commenter on all of my blogs and a good supporter. Said, how does it feel once you're back home after being on the trail for an extended period of time? Is it hard to adjust back into a routine, and do you feel out of sorts at all? It's absolutely rough to get back in the routine. I think last year when I came back, I was in a much better mental place. I think having that last 2 weeks of the trail this year where I was just frustrated and I was mad, and ended up coming back. They say never end your trail on a bad day unless you're injured. Well, it was a bad day and I was injured and ended my hike. And I came back with a lot of anger. So the integration back into the family has been a lot more challenging. The grandkids were excited. We didn't tell them I was coming back. So when they came over to have lunch and and Grandpa answered the door, it was pretty cool to see their faces, how excited they are. It's good to be loved, especially by grandchildren. All right. Fred McClure asks, bear bag versus canister to save weight. So did you treat clothes to prevent ticks, and do you have issues getting a ride to town for resupply or hotel? The bear bag is a lot less weighty than a canister. The canisters, I got to touch some up at Harper's Ferry, and it's like, oh gosh, if they ever go to making canisters mandatory on the trail, this is going to be bad. They're very bulky, and they take up a lot of space in a pack. You'll see pack sizes increase if the AT goes to a mandatory bear canister. Let's see. Ticks. Last year I sprayed with the Sawyer, the permethrin. I didn't do it before I started hiking this year because it was still April, and I thought I had plenty of chances. As you go north, it seems like the outfitters thin out, fuel supplies thin out. So when I was at Port Clinton, when I went to the to Cabela's, I had some Sawyer permethrin in my hand, and I was going to use it. And I was going to change out some clothes pretty soon, so I went, well, it's still. So I put it back, and I didn't do it. That was a huge mistake, because I never found any again, other than a little hiker, some in a hiker box, excuse me, where I was able to had enough to kind of spray on my hat and I think part of my shirt, like the shoulders and stuff. Thinking that, you know, ticks would drop on you, but in fact, it's more of an issue with them getting on your shoes and climbing up, as I found out. So I would have been better off to have used that on my boot laces and things like that. So my lesson learned is do the permethrin before your hike, even if you're even, you know, because it's good for like 20 washes, and you're not going to get 20 washes by the time you start your hike before you get to, say, Daleville, where you can get the stuff, which is where I treated everything last year. So. And I just use the stuff that you spray on and let it dry. Okay, this is and hitchhiking. You know, I only actually hitchhiked where I had to put out my thumb 3 times. Okay, the first time was coming out of Gatlinburg, and I almost gave up, started to call for a taxi, and finally a really nice man stopped, took me down, and I found out it was illegal to hitchhike back up, but the NOC outfitter there had a shuttle service you could sign up for, so it was easy to get back to the trail. And that's one of those things where you just start asking, and the places you stay at, even the hotels, a lot of times will have a list of trail angels that'll come and help pick you up. So that is a piece of information. It's important to remember. Ask at the hotels. You know, a lot of the hostels will do the transporting anyway, but if you're going to a Comfort Inn, ask them, hey, do you have anybody that is a trail angel that will come pick me up? And they might say, well, yes, here's a list. Like in Franklin, they had this whole list that emailed us that was all free. And we just gave people, you know, we tipped them for gas and stuff. You know, and then at Port Clinton, the hotel there had a list of 2 guys that would do it, you know, kind of a unofficial shuttles. You know, they're you know, for $5. You know, have them $5, and them $10. They'll pick you up, take you back, type of a thing. The other time was at the James River Bridge to get into Glasgow. I actually had to put out my hand and my thumb and hitchhike in. And when I was getting ready to leave, I was just walking back out to the main road to put my thumb back. But a lady stopped and said, "You need to ride back to the trail." I never even had to put my, you know, even turn to face the traffic yet. So, and then right before I got off the trail this year. I got a ride down to the grocery store and was looking at a 2-mile hike on hot asphalt back up the trail, and a guy started talking to me at the grocery store and I said, hey, you're not going north by any chance, are you? And he said, yeah. I said, you mind taking me back the trail? Hey, no problem. So there's ways to get rides without actually, you know, putting out your thumb and hitchhiking. And a lot of time it's just, you ask, you know, you can end up at a trailhead. A lot of people are parked, and you can just kind of you know, walk around and ask people. Rowan Mountain, we were able to get a ride into town, and we had to hitchhike back, and there's 4 of us, and we were having a hard time, so we split up into 2s, and the girl and the guy got picked up first, and they asked the guy in the truck, hey, can you go back and pick up our friends? So in a way, that was a failed hitchhike, but then, you know, other hikers kind of watched out for us. So most of the time, if you're going to go into town, you're going to find in a guide that there's either going to be some people there locally that shuttle, and you know, and they offer slack packing type stuff, or you know, the hostel will come and pick you up, or sometimes even the hotel will come pick you up if you ask. And if they don't, then ask if they know somebody who will. And sometimes one of their employees might go, you know what, I'm getting off. I'll come get you. All right. Let me go ahead and end this video, and we'll start back out here. We'll start with part 3 here in a second.